When I was young, I obviously got influenced by a lot of sources: my parents, school, friends. But one of these sources was television. And not just television as in Dutch television, but also maybe the Dutch dubbed versions of American television shows on kids' channels like Nickelodeon, Disney HD, or just any movie we would rent or enjoy as a family. And these shaped my vision, my view on what America was. I remember being obsessed with American high school. I was so excited about it. I watched movies like High School Musical, I watched TV shows like Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, or the hit movie The Adventure of Food Boy, which got a 3.8 on IMDb, but I loved. And I was just thinking, I can't wait for high school. I can't wait for the sports teams, the lockers, the drama, the classes, getting A's, B's, C's, and all that. And you can imagine my disappointment when I got to the Dutch middelbare school. It was very different from what I had remembered. And that's when I started realizing that America was different. It's also when I started thinking about the actual future and what I wanted. And still, my vision drifted to what I thought America was. Sure, high school here is different than there, but over there, it must still be like that, right? And if I work hard enough and if I would study, I could go to the Americas and I could buy one of those big houses with a garage and a lawn and and maybe a cool muscle car. I could have a ranch. If I worked hard enough, I would have the freedom to do whatever I want, because that's what I thought America was. And that hard work and that freedom is something I would like to talk about, specifically on the topic of financials. In our module, we read a book. We read the book Girl in Translation, which follows the character of Kimberly Chang, who is based on the real woman, Jean Kwok, and her immigration story. It follows the story of this mother and a young girl who travel from Hong Kong to the United States and are working, studying, and trying to build a better life for themselves. Kimberly obviously faces adversity. She has struggles with the language, but since she was already very academically inclined in Hong Kong, she managed to work through it, really dig deep, and achieve what she could. She gets a full scholarship, she works hard, and eventually gets her dream of becoming a heart surgeon, which I would say is very impressive. This, however, is not very indicative of what the American dream actually is. And with that, I don't mean the idea of the American dream, picking yourself up by your bootstraps, working hard, digging deep, and achieving what you want through hard work. But I mean the reality of it. I mean the American dream that doesn't really exist outside of sleeping. CNBC did a survey. They asked 3,000 Americans what their view was on the American dream and what it was to them specifically. 67% of them said that financial security is the American dream. 56% of them elaborated that owning a home is part of the American dream. To achieve the goal of owning a home, you obviously have to make financial decisions. And maybe some of your goals in life need to be pushed a little bit further. Things that people are delaying to try and buy a home is marriage, having children, living independently, and some even hold off on something like having a pet. And if you really start to look at the numbers, this isn't particularly surprising. Let's take 1985. In 1985, the median household income was 22.4K. The median house price was 78.2K. That is a price to income ratio of 3.5, which means you'd have 3.5 times a yearly wage to buy a home. Now, of course, the caveat here is that back then, interest was incredibly high. So a lot of that income would go to interest payments, but at least you would have the home. Nowadays, you have a price of income ratio of 5.8. which means you'd need 5.8 times a yearly income to be able to afford a house. A household hoping to buy a home in 2023 would need a median income of $100,000, while in reality, the median income in 2023 was about $80,000. Being $20,000 a year short to be able to afford a home is not a small sum. But maybe if you save hard enough, you can negate that 20,000 and still save up, right? No. Let's take the cost of living index and compare that to the approximate average household income. And these are numbers from 2024 provided to me by Davron. In the state of Colorado, the average household income is $106.5 thousand. Cost of living index, 104,000. We're actually in the clear here. In Colorado, it's possible to save up and buy a home. In Alabama, however, the average household income is 65.5 thousand. And the cost of living index is 88,000. Alaska, average income 91.2 thousand. Cost of living index 126,000. Let's take Kansas, 87.6 thousand. Pretty good average household income. But what do we need according to the cost of living index? 90 to 91,000. So even with that above national median income, you're not going to make ends meet. According to SHRM, only 56% of full-time workers in the United States make a living wage, which means that 44% struggle to fulfill their household's basic needs. This leads to them obviously taking second jobs, third jobs, trying to bridge that gap. But if your full-time job does not give you the money to give yourself a living wage, then how could you ever hope to buy property? And last I checked, John Winthrop and John Locke said that the pursuit of happiness was to own and cultivate land. But the actual pursuit of happiness apparently isn't possible anymore, because people are struggling to survive. And that's not even mentioning the detriment a family would face if one of them had a medical issue. On top of that, labor conditions themselves are also not that great. And sadly, the labor movements of the past have not prevented the working conditions or injustices of the present. We are currently seeing people burn down warehouses because they are not being paid a living wage. People throwing Molotovs or shooting at CEOs. Take Luigi Mangione, for example. Take Sam Altman, whose house has been hit by a Molotov because the working class is fed up of not being able to live, to survive. So what do I think the American dream is? Or at least my current interpretation of it. If you would have asked me, me from years ago, I'd have told you high school, sports, college, working hard, the nuclear family, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The core values this nation was built off of. Nowadays, however, looking at the numbers, I see that for many people, it is not an American dream. It is a fight and a struggle to survive, to live. And that's only normal costs. That's not counting a medical emergency, a car breaking down, or anything that would thrust sudden but severe costs upon them. The American dream as an idea is wonderful, and for a while I believed it was there. But for most, it has turned into an American nightmare.